Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Create and Consume, a podcast about what we make, watch, and buy in the era of digital content. I'm your host, Austen Tosone. I can't believe it, but this weekend we are coming up on our 1 year wedding anniversary. I have absolutely no idea where the time has gone because I feel like it was just yesterday that Andrew and I were getting married and celebrating with our friends and family here in New York City. But since that all happened before I started this podcast, in honor of our 1 year anniversary, I wanted to take you through our wedding day from start to finish, from, well, actually, even technically the day before to the morning after, and fill you in on all of the details, our inspiration behind the big day, and the unexpected twist that we definitely did not see coming. Today, I really just want to share the joyful story of our wedding and the vision behind it, but I do want to do another episode about wedding planning tips, kind of in honor of our anniversary as well. So stay tuned for that in a future episode. Before we dive into all of the wedding day details, let's discuss what we're creating and consuming this week. So, on the creation front this week, I have been dipping my toes back into short form content. I took an Instagram and TikTok break for a week over the summer, and it proved to be really amazing for me, honestly, just in terms of my mental health, my ability to focus on other things, and the fact that I was able to schedule out a post or two here or there, so I wasn't totally annoying the algorithms and I was still sort of staying in the good graces of the platforms while I was taking some time off for my mental health. I would absolutely love to do this again in the future, and I'm currently trying some things and working on how to build a more sustainable version of short form content for myself. So last week, I was batching a bunch of short form videos. I actually sat down to do my makeup one time and filmed 3 beauty videos in the process, one of which I've shared already at the time I'm recording this, and the next few that I'm planning to drop over the next few weeks. So those will definitely be coming up on Instagram and Pinterest, maybe TikTok as well. But one thing I've been experimenting with on TikTok is treating it more like Instagram stories. You know, whenever I have a random thought or I just want to talk to the camera and hop on in more of a casual way, I feel like that has been kind of resonating more with my audience on TikTok lately. To be honest, my audience on TikTok is the one that I feel I know the least at this moment because I have gained various followers on TikTok from over the years for tons of different types of content, from fashion videos to beauty product reviews to content creation tips. So I'm not entirely sure what my TikTok audience wants from me at this moment, which is why I feel like if I'm experimenting and kind of just showing up like I do here almost on TikTok, that I probably will get some more answers that way and can figure out what people might want to see from me on there. And then, as far as what I'm consuming this week, I'm actually recording this episode a little early just so I can ensure that I get it up on time because of this event, actually, because this is going to be occupying today and tomorrow in my life. So, by the time you are listening to this, I would have already attended the Made on YouTube event for this year. And let me read you quickly what Made on YouTube is. It is an exclusive invite only news event that will feature some of YouTube's leadership, including CEO Neil Mohan, top creators, and more to unveil YouTube product announcements. So it's basically like a combo press conference slash networking event. And I'm also attending a creator dinner the night before, which is actually tonight when I'm recording this. And YouTube is putting me up at the Standard Hotel, which is just so insane to me. I wasn't even sure if I was going to be staying over because I'm technically local and could, in theory, go back and forth. But I was offered the hotel room and I was like, I will take it. Sounds good to me. So I am so excited for tonight and tomorrow. I am planning to create some content about this over on Instagram and TikTok and probably YouTube Shorts as well. So be sure to check out all of my platforms at Austen Tosone. They are all linked in the show notes and in the description box if you're watching on YouTube. I'm so curious to attend this event, get to meet some fellow creators and also journalists who have been invited, and also hear what we can expect expect from YouTube in the coming months. With all of that being said, let's talk about our wedding. I still can't believe it's been almost a year, and one of the key details that we decided about our wedding was that we really wanted a fall wedding and we really wanted to get married in New York City. That is where we were both living when we first met. That's basically where we fell in love and have had so many fun adventures over the years. As you probably know now, we live in Hoboken, so we are extremely close by and can still go back to spots where we've had dates and hangouts over the years, which is so nice. And to us, New York is really the place where it all began. So that is what we were thinking. We got engaged in May of 2022 and we planned our wedding for September 29th of 2023. Again, in terms of the general vibe of our wedding, Andrew did let me make a lot of the creative decisions, which I really appreciated. I just didn't want our wedding to look like every other wedding. I am someone who loves color. I love interesting moments. I like making fun choices. And, I didn't want our wedding to it would look like a traditional wedding in a lot of ways, but I still wanted it to feel very personalized to us and still have a lot of touches that felt unique to how I felt about our love story. And one of the top words that came up while I was planning was festive. I really just wanted it to be like a celebration. I wanted there to be color. I wanted there to be liveliness in terms of like the music, the location, so many different things. And having a guiding word like that really helped us kind of narrow down our vision and figure out exactly what we wanted. We also knew we were looking for not necessarily your typical like banquet hall or, room at a hotel, but something that felt a little bit more industrial, loftish, or New York. Going into it with that in mind, it was super helpful for us to then narrow down venues to what we wanted. And I also knew I wanted it to be formal attire. Like, this is a wedding, let's get dressed up. Let's have fun. No sneakers. You know who you are if you were thinking about wearing sneakers to a wedding, unless you were specified to. So everything with the wedding was booked. We hired on our vendors, who I'm going to shout out as I go through the entire day. And then the other thing that we wanted to figure out was a little rehearsal dinner for the night before. Because we got married on a Friday, we actually had lots of options for our rehearsal dinner. Thursday is a less competitive night in New York City. In New York, you always have to get your reservations for things like this in super early because things can fill up. I mean, I'm going to a dinner tonight and it's a Tuesday on the day I'm recording this. So you just never know. You want to book your spaces and plan things out as far in advance as you possibly can. So I really wanted to have our rehearsal dinner at a restaurant called Aurora in Williamsburg, which is where we got married, Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I have been to this restaurant before and it was just so unbelievably good. And they happened to have this kind of covered garden area of their restaurant that we were able to rent out. So my in-laws coordinated basically all of that, which was so amazing of them. We're so appreciative. They threw us the most incredible rehearsal dinner. Everything was just so perfect, from all of the tables lined up together to the food that they served. There was so much food, and I honestly was like wondering if it was going to top the wedding food. I was like, how could it get better than this? There was prosciutto and burrata being brought around. There were pastas, there was steak, like anything you could imagine from an Italian restaurant. It was all in front of us and like it just kept coming. It was such an unbelievable dinner. We had the nicest night. My father-in-law also said a few words at our rehearsal dinner, which, as you guys know, unfortunately, he passed away in March. But one thing he said in his rehearsal dinner speech that's really stuck with me is just do one nice thing for your spouse every day. So that's something that I've definitely taken with me and been thinking about a lot over the last 6 months, and something that I'm always going to remember. We had an incredible rehearsal dinner. I wore this dress called the X Revolve Jacinda dress from the brand Elliott, Elliatt. It was basically this silky, drapey dress. I felt like I looked almost like a Grecian goddess or something in it. It was really, really flattering, but it was also so comfortable. I absolutely loved that outfit, and I just wore a necklace and some heels from Amazon, and I put my hair back in a slick bun. Now, in terms of our wedding, we purposely chose like the last week of September because I feel like that is typically the most beautiful time of year in New York. However, as you might know, I hinted at an unexpected twist at the beginning of this episode. There's always something with a wedding. Maybe it's someone's flight gets canceled, maybe someone's sick, maybe someone didn't get the message that they needed to arrive an hour earlier or whatever. Our something on our wedding week was the weather. And I am not usually one to complain about a little rain. And I didn't. But I am one to complain about torrential downpours, coastal flooding, and a state of emergency being declared in New York City. So on Thursday, it had kind of started to begin to rain. By the time we left the rehearsal dinner, the rain was coming down, and it looked like there was basically 100% chance of rain all day Friday. So I already kind of had to accept that that was our fate and go into it knowing that was going to happen. But I just could not have predicted or anticipated how bad the rain would really be. So the morning of, I actually tried to do this meditation, which I have never attempted to do a meditation before in my life, just like of my own volition on my own. But my friend Tanisha had sent it to me, and I listened to it, and it was like very positive. It really helped me get in the right mindset for about like half an hour. And then it was 7 a.m. So the hair and makeup artists started to arrive at the bridal suite, as did the first batch of bridesmaids who were getting their hair and makeup done. But starting after 7 a.m., maybe around like 7:30 and 8, the rain was really, really coming down to the point where my bridesmaids who were supposed to next get their hair and makeup done, I was like, hey, where are you guys? And they were like, because it was New York City, I had told everyone, stay wherever you want. We were staying at the William Vale just because it was right across the street from the venue, and it was our wedding weekend. We wanted to stay somewhere super close by and super nice, but I didn't think there was any reason that every guest or bridesmaid or groomsman should be shelling out the money to stay where we were staying. So I had told everyone, stay wherever. It's New York. Like, there's subways, there's cabs, there's Ubers. Like, it's so easy to get around. Little did I know that our wedding would be the day when, for a while, no Ubers were even showing up when my bridesmaids would open the app. Like, people were being told not to drive, to get off the road. The subways were closing. And you can imagine at this point how, no matter how calm and centered and happy-go-lucky you might want to be in this situation, that you would start to completely flip out, which is what I did. So I had a good cry, I got it out of my system, and I almost was pulling up the contracts to look at the act of God clauses that we had enacted in our contracts, because I was like, I think this might be a use case for that clause. But I just was so looking forward to our wedding. I couldn't possibly fathom the idea of rescheduling anything. So many people had already flown in, taken time off of work, especially because it was a Friday. Like, I really, really wanted more than anything for the wedding to move forward. But for a little while in the morning, I wasn't sure how that was even going to happen. We kept joking that the phrase of the day was literally through hell or high water. And when I tell you, that is exactly what my bridesmaids did, what Andrew's groomsmen did, what our family and friends did, and especially what all of our incredible vendors did to make sure that literally through hell and high water, I would say I went through both that morning, that our wedding was going to happen and that it was going to be beautiful regardless of the rain. So once bridesmaids finally started showing up, my cousin Caitlin showed me a video from her Uber where the water was just like up to the car door. Like, it was, I can't explain how much rain there was and how bad it was looking for us on the morning of our wedding. But somehow people made it. I also had switched. I originally wanted like my mother-in-law, the flower girl, and Andrew's sister, who was also one of my bridesmaids. I wanted all of them to be towards the end of the hair and makeup situation so they could spend most of the morning relaxing and come in maybe more at like 11 or noon. But I was like, nope, bring them down right now because everyone else is running late, so we need to switch the order. Luckily, it all ended up working out to the point where we were getting ready and we finally got some breakfast delivered. There was also an issue getting food delivered because my mom had very sweetly ordered some pastries, fruits, all of the breakfast things to our room, and also some sandwiches to our room and the room that Andrew and his friends were getting ready in. We had ordered the food from down the street. Again, you'd think this wouldn't be an issue somehow, but then that pastry truck broke down. They said they delivered the food to the hotel. No one could find it. Like, I was running around the hotel looking for this food. Anyway, luckily, everything finally showed up and was in the right place. Then it was finally time for me to get ready. I had already done my trial with my makeup artist, Elena. We used a company called Beauty Icon NYC for our hair and makeup. So they ended up sending 2 makeup artists who did both hair and makeup, and then one who just did makeup, which ended up working out fine in the rotation of like who was getting their hair and makeup done. I would say for my makeup, I did a pretty typical bridal makeup look, although instead of leaning more into like neutrals for lips and eyeshadow, I leaned more into pinks. So we used Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. It's basically like a pot of the eyeshadow, and it's so shimmery. It's like a creamy eyeshadow that blended all over my lids. I also had false lashes on, which I literally never do, so that made me feel so fancy. And then we also used Pillow Talk for my lipstick and lip liner. For my hair, I wanted really smooth, glamorous, big Hollywood curls. I usually do kind of loose waves like I have right now if you're watching on YouTube, so I wanted something a little bit more sleek and voluminous for the wedding day glam. So then we're like eating breakfast. Finally, like we put the playlist on, we're getting ready, everything's going well. Also, I got ready in a silk PJ set that I got from Amazon and a silk robe that I got from Etsy, and I think some fluffy white slippers that I got from Amazon as well. I've previously linked a lot of my wedding day stuff over on LTK, so I'll be sure to include links to those posts in the show notes and the YouTube description box. My bridesmaids were wearing some cute matching PJs from Draper James, and I loved these because they were almost a nod to the flowers that we ended up doing, which I'll talk about in a bit. And then it was actually time to start getting dressed. So my bridesmaids were wearing mismatched but kind of sunset color dresses from a company called Azazi. I actually was working with Azazi, which was incredible. So the dresses were gifted to my bridesmaids, which they were thrilled about. That was like one less thing they had to pay for. I didn't actually end up doing a ton of influencer partnerships for the wedding. I just focused on the bridesmaids' dresses because that was something that my friends wouldn't have to pay for themselves. And I also did a stationery partnership with Minted. So they gave me a credit in exchange for some social media posts that I did. Same thing kind of with Azazi. And for Minted, the stipend that they gave me essentially was enough to cover the cost of creating our save the dates, my bridal shower invitations and thank you notes, our wedding invitations and thank you notes, and also the menus for the reception that would go on everyone's plates. So that ended up working out so well. I absolutely loved collaborating with both Minted and Azazi, and all of the girls looked so cute in their dresses, and I loved that they each got to kind of pick their first choice color, so hopefully they could rewear the dress again in the future. I know all brides say that, but they really did get to pick the style and the color of their dress. So I feel like there's a stronger chance that they might actually rewear them. The groomsmen ordered tuxes from the Menguin. That one was interesting because you sent in measurements. You didn't like pick sizes or anything. And then they kind of just sent things based on that. Most of them, from what I remember, did not have an issue with it. Andrew had to swap out his pants, I think, more than once to kind of get the fit right. But once he did that, he was happy with his tux. And I obviously thought he looked amazing. And then my dress was actually from Etsy, if you can believe it. I actually did a whole blog post that I'll link in the show notes too about getting a wedding dress from Etsy. This was a really unique experience and it all ended up working out okay, but I was so lucky that in addition to buying the dress that I also worked with a tailor here in the city to get everything completely right. So big shout out to Alts, which is the alteration specialists in the West Village. They, thank goodness, helped me make this dress really fit and work and look absolutely amazing the day of. So then we did our first looks. I did a first look with my dad and with Andrew. Andrew did a first look with his mom. And then I also did a first look with my bridesmaids, which was so fun to see their reactions because at that point only Taylor had seen the dress. And then Caitlin saw the dress maybe like 2 weeks before the wedding, where I panic texted her and like had a question about it and was like, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So we started taking photos on the balcony, which luckily was covered. And by the way, for the record, it is still downpouring outside. Like it is really, really raining, but I can't explain the relief during the first look when I finally got to see Andrew. Like, I cried when that happened. I'm getting choked up talking about it now because, like, Andrew is the person who would normally calm me in that situation. And I was so tempted to, like, text or call him, but I wanted to preserve the magic of actually seeing each other the morning of. And I'm glad I did, because the sense of relief that you can like see in our faces as we're taking those photos, and like the happiness level just exploded off the charts. So it just felt so good to know, okay, he's here and he looks great. I'm here and I look great. So at the very least, this is actually happening. Like, it just felt like confirmation that it was all going to be okay. Then the next batch of hours was basically spent taking photos with the two of us, like doing couple portraits, taking photos with our families and with the bridal parties as well. I am so grateful that we hired Kate Edwards Photography for our wedding. I don't know how she made these photos look so incredible, and in a good majority of them you would never even know it was raining outside, but she just truly captured like the joy of our day and the looks on our faces. We even ended up taking out the clear umbrellas, which I was so against at first. I was like, oh, if we buy these then it's gonna rain, but it was a good thing we did, because I really had wanted to take some photos outside of the Wythe Hotel and just of us walking even along the street in the city. And anyway, all of the photos ended up coming out so cute. Same with our videos. And shout out to Hitches and Unions. We had Eddie as our videographer, and he did a phenomenal job. In addition to shooting like the usual wedding day videos the day of the wedding, he also had given us a camcorder to kind of record us like getting things ready the week of, packing things up, getting to the venue, the rehearsal dinner, getting ready in the morning. So it was kind of cool to have that homemade camcorder footage intermixed with the like professional video images that we had. I'm also really glad that we ended up choosing packages where we had Kate and a second shooter and Eddie and a second shooter as well, because that meant that while one person was upstairs with the girls getting ready, someone else could be downstairs with the guys getting ready. So I felt like there was no chance we would miss any moments. And for added assurance of that, I actually hired a relatively newer wedding vendor, I would say, called a wedding day content creator. I had pretty much known since the time we got engaged that this was actually a vendor that I wanted to hire, and I'm so grateful that we did. The top reason that I ended up booking a wedding content creator was so I didn't have to work on my wedding day. I knew that I was going to be creating content leading up to our wedding, which I did so many wedding countdown videos and wedding updates on TikTok. I have a whole wedding playlist that I'll link down below if you want to go back and watch any of those videos. But I also just have always brought my audience along in every aspect of my life. I mean, my audience has read blog posts where I've transferred colleges, they've seen videos where I've gotten laid off from jobs. Like, I couldn't imagine not sharing my wedding day with my audience too. And hiring a wedding day content creator just meant that I didn't have to worry or work or have my phone with me during the wedding day. I got to be totally present and really just enjoy myself, which was honestly a big deal to me. Like, I had always wondered beforehand, like, oh, I wonder how that'll work. Like, am I vlogging getting ready for the wedding? But like, that is just not something that I wanted to be spending my wedding day doing. So by outsourcing it, I was really able to take a step back. I was able to send ideas and like some trending audios of fun videos I wanted to do with my bridesmaids. They had already kind of also agreed and understood that we would be creating some content given that their dresses were gifted. So I had a few ideas specifically that I wanted to capture for Azazi during our wedding day. And honestly, the girls had fun with it. They had a great time with it. And they were all super understanding that like this was kind of part of the arrangement. And also that, of course, it's me. Like, I'm going to be probably creating some content from the wedding day. They did so many like fun interviews. They had like the girls and the guys guess what my dress was going to look like. And they captured so many like extra little moments that like I didn't even know were happening. It was also just nice to not have to expect that our videographer would be doing this as well, because that was not in his packages. That's not like his wheelhouse. His wheelhouse is professional videography, but Lauren's wheelhouse, so Plan by Laura, is the wedding content creator we used in the city. I met her at an event that the Knot threw, I want to say at the end of 2022 or maybe early 2023. I can't quite remember. I think it was the end of 2022. And she is just so professional, so on it. She's done so many weddings. She travels to weddings all the time, but she's based in New York. And she even like put together edits of things that like I had figured I would do on my own. And I said to her when I hired her, like based on the kind of custom package that we put together with her, I was like, honestly, just like send me all of the raw footage and like I can put stuff together. Don't worry about it. And the fact that she like went above and beyond and even edited a few videos for me that I could just post right away was just like so incredible. So I could not recommend this enough if you also want to capture iPhone footage at your wedding and you don't want to have to make like a bridesmaid or a friend or whoever be responsible for it. I think the best gift you can also give to your bridesmaids and your family is to give them the day off at your wedding so they can just enjoy and be fully present. Unless they like really, really want to volunteer to do something and you happen to know that they're really good at it. So by now it was around like 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon and it was time to walk over to the venue. And I just really quickly need to add, I was supposed to change my shoes at a certain point to get in my beautiful $300 wedding shoes from Bella Bell. And I forgot to. So I got married in my like $28 Amazon heels that I was traipsing through the rain in. And you know what? I still had the best day ever. So I really wish I had gotten a chance to wear my shoes. At least they made it into the flat lay photos that Kate was taking in the morning, like with our invitations and some loose flowers and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I didn't actually get to wear my shoes. Okay, so we walked across the street to our venue, which was 74 Wythe. This is a relatively new venue for the New York City area. I believe it opened in 2021 officially, and we chose it because it is a beautiful rooftop with an incredible view of the city. One of the things that I was most disappointed about when I saw how badly it was raining the morning of was how foggy it was and the fact that I could barely see the skyline. And I was like, oh my God, this is not what I envisioned. Like, I can't believe this. But luckily, throughout the day, the fog did lift. And during the actual ceremony, you could see the skyline behind us, which is exactly what I wanted. And by the time the evening rolled around, you could really see the city behind us because a lot of the fog had lifted. So all of the photos from the evening where we're like listening to speeches and stuff, you can still see the cityscape behind us. And I was so grateful that for a few moments it kind of lifted and people could really like see my vision and see what we were talking about. Just as a quick sidebar, Andrew and I went to his friend's wedding in Boulder earlier this year. It was back in April, and they got married on the rooftop of the athletic center of the University of Colorado at Boulder, because there is usually this incredible view of the Flatiron Mountains, like behind the stadium, and it snowed so much at their wedding. It's like the two extremes of weather. Like they had 7 inches of snow and we had 7 or more inches of rain. I forget how much rain actually accumulated, but if you look up like September 29th, 2023 rainfall New York City, it broke some kind of record. I forget what it was. So anyway, they can sort of relate to the weather related issues with the view. But the biggest reason that we ended up choosing 74 Wythe was number one, location wise. It was within Williamsburg, so it was really easy to walk to, when it's not flooded, and that it was across the street from the William Vale where we were staying. There were tons of places nearby that people could choose to stay for the wedding. It was pretty accessible near public transportation, although again, some of the subways closed at various points throughout the day and flooded. So once again, people were trekking through hell and high water to get to us. But the other incredible part of this venue is that the whole rooftop was enclosed in glass and it had a retractable roof. So even though it rained, we did not have to have a rain plan per se, other than just making sure the roof was closed. If it was a beautiful day, we would have gotten married with the roof open. But the fact that we didn't have to like redo the seating chart at the last minute or divert to a different layout gave me so much peace of mind for the day of. So I'll talk about this more in the wedding planning tips episode, but I would strongly suggest finding a venue where the rain plan is something that you love just as much as the original plan, because that's what ended up happening to us. And we were so grateful for the venue that we chose, because once people were in at the start of the ceremony, they were in this venue until about 10:30 p.m. Having the ceremony, the cocktail hour, and the reception all in this one building just made everything 10 times easier. I also want to touch on the flowers because the flowers were one of my favorite parts of the entire day. Isabel from A Lily Among Thorns went above and beyond for this wedding. She put together so many different proposals for me, gave me so many different iterations of what I could expect. She had so many ideas, and to see everything really brought to life was just truly incredible. For our ceremony, we had two freestanding pillars that were kind of uneven in height. And originally, I said I didn't want too much greenery in them because I wanted them to feel very full and very floral. But she kind of showed me how we could use greenery to make them feel more wispy and less like chunky if they were to be like just entirely flowers with no movement to them. And I'm so glad she suggested that. That was absolutely the right decision. She also suggested using like autumn turned hydrangeas, which had a bit of green to them already to kind of fill in for the greenery. So it still felt like it was filled with flowers. And flowers were one of the things that I was like, we'll probably save on flowers. We probably won't spend that much on flowers. First of all, wrong. Anything in New York is obviously going to cost what it costs, but I can't stress enough how I feel like the flowers visually made our day so beautiful, especially given how much rain there was and how dark like and overcast it was outside all day, because we had these beautiful colorful flowers both for like the pillars and for the ceremony with the bridesmaids bouquets and for my bouquet, and then all of the centerpieces at the reception. They just made every photo pop and everything look amazing, and I could not imagine our day without them now. For the flowers, I really wanted it to be a warm toned color palette. I love flowers like dahlias. We also had some cosmos in my bouquet, and we ended up really honing in on these beautiful like pinks, oranges, whites. At first I thought I wanted red in there, but red actually I feel like would have made it look a little bit darker overall. So she really helped me again like hone in on the color palette for everything. They looked very whimsical. They didn't look too like stuffed together. Again, they felt very like airy and breathable, which I absolutely loved. So that was kind of what the ceremony space and then our bouquets and everything looked like. We also had boutonnieres for the guys, and then we also had wrist corsages for my mom and my mother-in-law. For our ceremony, we wanted to keep it pretty short but meaningful. We ended up actually hiring an officiant company called Honeybreak Officiants to perform our wedding ceremony. The girl we hired was Celine. She was great. We had considered a few different options for ceremony officiant. I didn't grow up religious at all, so that was kind of out of the question for me. We also toyed with the idea of asking a friend or family member to perform the ceremony for us, but at the end of the day, I'm so grateful we hired the professionals, because I love that Celine asked us to basically put together our love story that she kind of read aloud to us during the ceremony. I feel like it's so nice to hear the backstory, especially if you're attending as like a plus one of a friend who doesn't know the couple as well. It really helps give context and kind of set the tone and get everyone on the same page for like who we both are and how we got here together. As a writer and a storyteller, that was really important to me during the ceremony, and it was also really important to me that we both wrote and read our own vows at the ceremony too. Andrew's vows were just so sweet. They made me so happy. They made me tear up. And we had purchased these cute vow books from Etsy, so we didn't have to have just like a random piece of paper or our phones. I would argue that you don't need these, but I just think it's so nice that we have them and we can look back on our actual vows that we like wrote in these books at any time in the future. We also served past Prosecco during the ceremony. I love when people do this at weddings. I'm like, yes, I am actually a little parched because I just wanted to make sure I got here on time. And especially with the rain and everything, I feel like most people who walked in were like, I will take the Prosecco. We also ended up hiring ceremony musicians. I didn't think we were going to do this at first, and I'm so happy we did. We had a cellist and guitar duo from a company called Wedding Gigs here in the city. So it's basically spelled wedding gigs, but like the G overlaps. So if you look up Wedding Gigs, you'll find them. Andrew and the Wedding Party walked down the aisle to Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis Presley. My dad and I walked down the aisle to Your Song by Elton John. And then the recessional song that we all walked back down the aisle to right after we got married was Halo by Beyonce. We also had our florist put together little cones of petals and we passed them out, or not we, I wasn't standing there handing them out, but like our wedding coordinators and wedding planners and vendors who were at the venue were passing them out and making sure people saw them, especially people who were sitting on the aisle, so that when we walked back, they tossed petals, which made for some pretty cool photos. Moving on to the cocktail hour, Andrew and I were supposed to have a few minutes of alone time right after the ceremony, but basically my dress, in order to bustle it was just really complicated because of all the lace and because the snaps were clear. So it was taking a little longer than expected for my mom and Taylor, and actually Lauren, who was our wedding content creator, jumped in to try to help too, to bustle the dress, because I was planning to wear it throughout the cocktail hour and also to our first dance and throughout the speeches. So we didn't actually get to have that like moment together right away where we were like, oh my God, we just got married, which of all the things to miss, like that's okay. But I really didn't want to miss the cocktail hour. So those three gals got on it, got the dress bustled, and we got to go downstairs and say hi to all of our guests, grab one of our signature drinks, and enjoy the cocktail hour. A couple of highlights from our cocktail hour. First of all, the cocktails. I did a Paloma and Andrew did an old fashioned. Our ceremony musicians also stayed and played for an hour while everyone was at the cocktail hour. Basically, the layout of our venue was the rooftop area where we had the ceremony, and then there was a downstairs room with another bar and seating and stuff like that where we had the cocktail hour. And while everyone was downstairs at the cocktail hour, they were flipping the space upstairs from ceremony to reception. So getting all the tables set up, laying out all of our flatware, et cetera, et cetera. So we were right downstairs. Our ceremony musicians stayed for another hour and played music during the cocktail hour. I actually couldn't tell you a single thing they played. I was like, cocktail hour, free reign. You guys play whatever you want. Bartleby and Sage were our caterers for our wedding, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park. Literally everything they did was amazing. We got lots of compliments about the food, which was really important to me. That was like one of the top 3 things that we outlined as priorities when we were planning out our wedding day. We had a taco station. We had lots of past apps like crab cakes and ceviche, which I absolutely loved. And then we also hired an independent vendor, which was people walking around live shucking oysters. So the company we used was called Red Oyster USA. I cannot tell you how many compliments and comments we got by hiring this specialty food vendor for the cocktail hour. It was incredible. I also got to have an oyster on my own. I was popping around and they came up and they had literally like buckets of oysters attached to a belt that they were wearing with every condiment. Like, oh, do you want the oyster sauce? Do you want onions? Do you want vinegar? Like, you could basically customize it and they would hand it to you. It was just the coolest thing ever. Those were some highlights from the cocktail hour. Honestly, it flew by. And then when we went upstairs, we also did a first look with our reception room, which actually my friend Danielle, who lives in Hoboken, also suggested doing. She did it for her wedding day, and it really did mean a lot to me to have that moment, to see like my overall vision come to life and to be able to see everything all laid out in front of me. And also by that point, like the sun had finally started to set, and with the candles lit and everything, like I had been able to kind of, this might sound silly, but like rebrand the wedding in my head, because originally I was like, oh, I want it to be like so bright and all of these things. And it was throughout the day, energy wise, even though the weather didn't reflect that. By the evening, it just felt moody and romantic and like so New York. And it just made me so happy to kind of see that room in all of its glory, with all of the lights twinkling from the candles, the lights sparkling from the skyline. Like, I just couldn't believe that it was all real. And there's a photo of me seeing the room and crying because I just couldn't believe how amazing everything looked. So for our tablescapes, again, the flowers were totally the star of the show here. They did some pieces where they had these low center bowls kind of just filled with flowers that I absolutely loved. And then we had lots of bud vases sprinkled throughout the tables as well. So it kind of gave this like full effect of flowers without having to have millions of them like all stacked next to each other. It still looked and felt very full, but it was like a much more light effect. We also had some fresh fruit cut and displayed on the tables too. So we had like oranges, lemons, grapefruits. That just added to the color as well. And it was also cheaper than if we were using just all flowers to kind of distribute what exactly was going on the tabletops. And then in addition to that, we had candles on every table too. So we actually ordered the candles ourselves from a wholesale seller called Yummy Candles. This was just the cheapest, easiest way to do this. And then our florist provided hurricane vases for the candles. And again, with all of those things kind of alternating together along the tables, it gave this very full look, even though it wasn't just filled with flowers, which would have been like substantially more expensive. I loved our place settings. I literally mocked them up in Canva. I was so into getting the details of it right. We basically did a cream linen tablecloth. We did a pink plate with a white appetizer plate on top of it. We had long, slender silver flatware, and we had these vintage inspired water glasses that were clear, but they just had this cool design to them. I think those were an extra $2 a glass for rentals, but honestly, I stand by that decision. We did our entrances as a bridal party, and then Andrew and I entered. We did our first dance to the song Timeless by Taylor Swift, which I absolutely loved, and I'm so glad we chose. Andrew and his mom danced to Forever Young by Rod Stewart, and my dad and I danced to Times of Your Life by Paul Anka. And then we invited everyone on the floor for a quick dance break, which I think was necessary. I can't stand when I'm at a wedding and it's been like you've been in the room for over an hour and you have not danced to one single song because it's not appropriate or like the time has not come. I feel like everyone needed a minute just to dance and get it out of their system. That was also a suggestion from our DJ. We used DJ Tim Martell here in New York City. He was phenomenal. He was just so amazing about like listening to our music choices, reading the room, changing things up. And he gave us a chance to say, you know, obviously like what our first dance songs would be, but also if there were a couple of key songs we wanted throughout the night, and if there were songs we wanted to avoid playing as well. After that, we went right into the appetizers and speeches, and my dad spoke, Taylor spoke, and Andrew's brother spoke. I cried through all three. My dad made an incredible reference to my career journey being similar to the Eras Tour, which that is like literally one of the biggest compliments you could give me. And Taylor said so many sweet words. She obviously is like a sister to me, and we just talked about her getting engaged in the last episode too. So many emotions there. And after that, I did my outfit change. So I changed into my party dress, which was a short strapless dress from a brand called Amur, Amur. I got it from Saks Fifth Avenue, but this brand is carried also at Anthropologie weddings. I think they might be on Revolve as well. But the dress I wore was called the pleated shell dress, and I switched my hair into a ponytail. I also just really need to shout out Elena, my makeup artist, at this point, because I actually chose to pay for her to stay throughout the day to do touch ups. And thank God I did that. When we initially stepped out to take photos, I forgot to mention this earlier, but like my hair almost completely fell and she redid it like immediately. Like I don't even know how she did it so quickly, but I was just so grateful that even though it was rainy and humid and all of these things that I didn't think it was going to be on September 29th, I was just able to like still look incredible throughout the day. And she just came and was always there, ready for a touch up, ready for lipstick. And when she put my hair in the ponytail, I was just like, thank you. Like, truly, the day would not have been the same without her. And I can look at every single photo of me from that day, pretty much. You know, there's always one or two, and feel incredibly happy with how I looked. After that, we pretty much just got to dance the night away. I had the best time. I loved all the music that we chose. And again, like the DJ was really able to read the room. And if we were loving like a Simple Plan song, then he was probably playing like Fountains of Wayne or Smash Mouth or something right after that. There was a good amount of Taylor Swift in there, which was obviously important to me as well. And then one other part about our venue is there was also an additional area of the rooftop that was not under this covered retractable roof, which originally I had pictured like when guests first arrived, they could like go up there and be taking pictures as the sun was going to start to set and everything. That obviously didn't end up happening with the rain, but it did finally stop raining. And someone came up to me and was like, "Have you been out on the roof yet?" And then I started crying for like the millionth time that day. And I was like, I can go out on the roof. And so we did. And I got to take some pictures with my friends and with Andrew. And it was just incredible to like finally at the end of the night, I'm like holding my Paloma, looking out at the city skyline and just being like, oh my God, like literally this is my wedding. This is so insane. And then I just was crying all over again, of course. The last two songs of the night that we played were New York, New York by Frank Sinatra, and of course the millennial anthem, Mr. Brightside by The Killers. And after that, we basically just packed up some of the DIY stuff. I had DIY'd some signs and things like that. We had to get our card box and everything and bring it back to the hotel. So shout out to the wedding party and everyone who helped with all of that. The vendors were breaking down the space. We ended the reception at 10:30 and they had 90 minutes to break down and be out completely by midnight because let me tell you something about 74 Wife. They probably have a wedding like every Friday, Saturday, Sunday forever. And I can see why. It's just such an incredible venue. And I truly don't think we would have been able to do it without all of the vendors that we hired. And I'm just so grateful to all of them for their hard work and their help to bring our special day to life. And after that, I was just so excited that it had finally stopped raining. So we were able to walk to our after party, which was just at a local bar called Muggs Ale House. I had looked into like renting some spaces for after parties and different packages and things like that, and everything was just getting so expensive. And then I called Muggs Ale House and they were like, sure, you can have our back room starting at 11. That's fine. You can be back there for as long as you want. You can just do a cash bar, no minimum, no rush. Come on back. And I was like, done. Sold. I was like, that sounds incredible because I didn't really see the point in having like more of an open bar at the after party. At that point, I feel like people are not actively trying to like continue to drink. I feel like it's more like, let's go grab one more beer and just sit and hash the whole night out and like hang out a little further, just keep the night going. And by the time we finally left, I was just like so happy. I just couldn't believe. I was like, that was our wedding. Like, we really did it. So it was just the incredible end to an incredible evening. I woke up in the morning and was like, that might have been the craziest day of my entire life. Oh my gosh, you guys. And that is the story of our wedding day. I still cannot believe that it has been an entire year. I am so lucky and grateful to have a partner and a husband like Andrew, who is just so supportive of me and so kind to my friends and family, and just an all around great guy. Like, I could not say enough good things about him. Obviously, I could go on, but that is the story behind our wedding day. I really hope you enjoyed hearing all of the details. Again, I mentioned a few like products and outfits and things like that. I did link a lot of stuff on LTK, so I'll be sure to include those down below in the description box. And if you have any questions or you want to tell me your wedding day story, definitely reach out. And as a reminder, you can support Create and Consume for free by doing any of the following. You can leave us Apple and Spotify ratings and reviews. That's the number one free thing you can do to support this show. It takes 2 seconds to do. You can also like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you're watching on YouTube. You can follow along at Create and Consume Pod on Instagram and TikTok. You could send this episode to a friend who might enjoy it. And as always, you can check out createandconsumepodcast.com for episode recaps and more. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.